Welcome back to another episode of Confessions of a Recruiter. This time we're over in Perth visiting Jade from Avani Group and Andy Williamson from Ava James.
In this episode, we spoke about a lot of topics, but one thing that you're going to want to hear about is the oh shit moments on starting a recruitment agency. It's not all rainbows and sunshine, and we hear from Jade and Andy about exactly how it happens and what the outcomes are, so make sure you tune in.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Confessions of a Recruiter. Today we are over in Perth and we're joined by two very special guests, Andy and Jade, and you're both partners of X Recruiter. So thanks for coming on. This is awesome.
Thanks for having us.
How do you feel about coming on the podcast?
Shitting myself.
Are you? Why?
Absolutely shitting myself. My hands are pissing sweat just now.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you had a bit of a warm-up. You had a bit of a content powwow with Serge. You're a little bit warm. You know what are you doing?
No, it's going from one uncomfortable situation to another. But, you know, it's all about, seems starting your own business, I guess. About coming out of your comfort zone.
New skills.
Yeah, that's it.
What about you, Jade?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Having a chat with my two mates.
That's it?
That's what it feels like.
Three mates.
Sorry, Andy.
I thought you were going to apologise to me.
I was going to say. What makes you think I'm the one that got left out here?
Good point. That was very assumptive of me.
Yeah, I think if I had to choose, I'd be leaving Blake out.
Oh, gee, thanks for that.
You've still got CrossFit. It's all good.
I was actually thinking, before we got started, how often when you're at your previous agencies would you be proactively networking or meeting up or doing something like this with a recruiter outside of your bubble? Is this abnormal right now, just catching up with another recruiter that owns another recruitment agency and jumping on a potty, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. I think before I started Avani Group, definitely, you know, it was, if you're a recruiter, you're a competitor, and we just were taught to stay in our own lane and not really network too much. So yeah, when I started the business, I think I'd only spoken to one or two other people that had also started their agencies in the industry.
How many do you talk with now?
So many. Yeah, probably, you know, there are 2 or 3 that I will speak to on a regular basis, and then 20 to 25 people that I can reach out to.
Why do you think that is? Why is that all of a sudden you're staying in your own lane, you start your own business, and you're just like a bit of a network extraordinaire?
Yeah, I think it's, well, for me especially, like since I started posting on LinkedIn and like pretty much annoying everyone's feed every single day, I've had a lot more people reach out to me. You know, they're keen to hear my story, keen to hear about how I've started my own business, how I've gone about it. So that's definitely helped, but also just being a lot more open to knowing that there are a lot of different ways that you can recruit. And because I was only at one agency for 6 or 7 years, I was very stuck in my own ways.
Interesting. What about you, Andy?
I was actually the polar opposite.
Really?
Yeah, complete opposite. I think part of that's probably down to the fact that I've worked for 3 agencies in Perth. So you build connections with people within those businesses, you keep in touch and everything else. And, you know, I think it was a bit of a Perth tradition to pop down for Friday beers and stuff like that. You know, you get recruiters from all over the place, and, you know, you get ones that were a bit cagey. You know, didn't really know, but then as it starts to become a bit more of a regular thing, it's good sometimes that you don't talk about work at all. Sometimes you just need a bit of a vent more than anything, but I've always been a big advocate of it.
Well, how often would you proactively reach out to or have a conversation with a recruiter that's not a part of the business that you were at? Like if you saw Jade just posting a job ad, would you, on your feed, would you be like, hey, Jade, how are you?
Historically, probably not.
Yeah.
Since starting up my own business, I'd say it's probably been a bit more regular.
Yeah.
Both ways. People reaching out to me reaching out to people. It's just become a bit more organic more than anything else, which is, you know, quite eye-opening, to be perfectly honest. But there's certainly been a lot of support within the industry for what I've done from my perspective. Which
And you're 5-6 months in with Ava James.
Yeah.
Jade's 12 months with
12
Avani.
months.
Yep. Happy anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy anniversary, Jade. So Is it because when you're in business, you become more of like, you want to learn, you want to self-educate, you want to be around other people doing a similar thing? Is that, reckon, why you look for more answers? Or do you feel like when you're in agency land, you get what you get and you think that's sort of all you need to know? Like, what's that shift? Because like, I experienced it too when I got into business, but when I was working in an agency, I thought, this is all I ever need to know. And then is it because when you're in business, you realize there's so much you don't know?
So much you don't know, but I also think that you look for different ways to do things, and also you try and learn from others that are a step ahead in the journey. In that sense, I'm only, like I said, 5.5 months in. So there are people that have done it for 12 months. There are people I know that have done it for 4, 5, 6 years, 10 years plus. They are naturally going to know a lot more than I am on a lot of things to do with business. So being able to have those conversations and have those soundboards and have people actually reach out to me just saying, look, if there's anything I can help with, any advice I can give, or you just want to shoot the shit about anything business-wise, like just give me a shout, or come in for a coffee, come in any time. And, traditionally, if you're with another agency, you kind of see that as like, I'm not going into the lion's den with a competitor to start talking business kind of thing. Whereas now I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I'll come in.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'll take whatever knowledge and experience I can get, because it's only going to benefit me.
Yeah, you can't underestimate the power of having like a good community around you, because when you're at a large agency, I know you've worked for a couple of big ones as well, you'll often be in the office with 30, 40, 50 people a day. So you don't really feel the need to reach out to other people. Whereas when you start your own agency, it can be quite lonely at times, and you need to have, people you can rely on and like people you can reach out to.
Yep. I think what would be really interesting to get both of your experiences on is you've been in your agency 5 months now, Jade 12 months. So in business, the difference between 0, 6 and 12 months is actually like worlds apart. Business goes really, really fast, and there's really quick learnings that you take. I'm probably a little bit to blame for this, but I post about how amazing it is all the time. And the reality is it's probably not amazing all the time, and there's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of hurdles, there's a lot of internal conflicts that you have to try and get yourself to the next deal. Like every BD call you make, it hits so much different when it's for yourself. So I'd love to be able to learn from both of you what the really hard parts were on getting started, what were the unknown challenges that you didn't expect, and like what the shit parts of starting a recruitment agency are, because everyone talks about how good it is, myself included, but not many people actually shine light on the hard parts. So I guess, Andy, you're 5 months in. What were your oh shit moments? When did they come, if any?
I've had plenty of oh shit moments, not just in the first 2 months, even recently. I don't think they ever go away. I think it's more about how you handle them, how you cope with them, and your kind of mindset around it. I think the early stage is just freaking out about getting jobs on. First of all, like, and then I'd say even in the early stages, I'm adding jobs into the system. Like, why am I doing that? Like, I've not recruited for that type of role before. Like, it's not in my strategy. I'm just like, yeah, I'll find you a truck driver. No problem. I can do that. I can find anything. The same as any kind of confident recruiter. But the reality is the legwork I'd have to put in to find that, and then the stresses of potentially replacing truck drivers. So no offense to truck drivers, but like I kind of lost sight at points just looking to get that first deal across the line. And you end up kind of putting time into things that you shouldn't be putting time into. And then when you actually start getting some things that are workable, and they might just, the usual stuff, we had a better candidate apply direct, or we had a better candidate apply through, or come through from another agency or something like that, and you miss out and you think, shit, that was going to be my first win.
Yeah.
Or for me personally, like I had an offer out, I had qualified this candidate within an inch of his life kind of thing about exactly what he wanted wanted, not just from a job, from the type of company he wanted to be in, what he wanted from life, what he wanted from everything. So I sent like basically a bloody 10-page dissertation on this guy, and he went in, they loved him, they offered him, and he shat the bed. And the thing that frustrated me was that there was no justifiable reason to give me closure on that. So for me, I was like, there it is, I'm so confident, like this is ticking all the boxes. It's like a 30k bump up on what he's on just now. He's not going to get that elsewhere because he just had a bump up. I'm like, tick, 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 tick. Oh, nah, just going to give it a crack here for another 6 months and see how I get on. You're like,
yeah. So walk me through, like, what was the first moment? How far through your launch? Like you've started the business. You're like, what's next step? Are you going? Was there an oh shit moment when it's like, I guess it's time to just start hitting the phones? Like, what was the actual penny drop moment where it was like, okay, I guess I've better make this work?
I probably kind of tried to run before I could crawl in that sense, probably not too dissimilar to your story in that sense, where I'm making these calls but didn't have a LinkedIn page, didn't have a website, had terms of business but hadn't been branded or anything like that. Yes, I'm like,
true, I remember that.
It's got the name of my business. Yeah. I've got an ABN. Like, we're all good kind of thing. You can trust me.
Yeah.
So that was certainly a lot more difficult in that sense. It provided a few hurdles and maybe lacked a bit of credibility when you're having these conversations. But once the branding was in place, once at least the LinkedIn page was in place and this kind of side of things, it felt it was like instant credibility overnight, so the calls became easier, the conversations became a bit more tangible, there was a bit more buy-in, because they could, same as anything, you need to be able to see it. If it's just a conversation and it's like, yeah, great, you started your own business, but you have a website, logo, nothing.
So you're 5 months in, have you ever had a moment where you thought, I don't think I should have done this?
Not quite.
What was the closest
quite
moment?
to there, but just more that initial stress, freak out about the first placement.
Yeah.
Just to see something come through the door to go, yeah, the mortgage is going to get paid.
Yeah.
You almost feel like you've forgotten how to recruit, hey?
Yeah.
Everything goes out the window, starting again.
Yeah, that's it. Like, you just, it is a bit like a rebirth kind of thing, Like
when did you make your first placement?
July. Yeah, July.
Was that
week?
4, 5, 6 weeks in?
6, I think it was.
6 weeks?
Yeah, 5 or 6 it was.
Yep.
That was the one that accepted the offer within 4 weeks for the first guy, and then the next one was after that.
Gotcha.
So, like, if you step back and actually look at it now, you go, that's actually pretty quick. To be fair, like,
it doesn't feel quick at the time.
No,
it feels like whoa.
Yeah.
It's been like a month. I'm still no closer to getting
Yeah.
money in the door. What is going on?
Yeah, that's it. And like, even if you were to like leave where you are now and go to another agency and you made your first deal within 6 weeks,
You'd be a hero.
you'd be like, unreal.
Yep.
New client, deal, like, that's awesome.
Yep.
Whereas you do it for yourself, it's like, oh, thank fuck.
What about you, Jade? Do you remember those moments when you first started out? What were they?
Yeah.
Talk us through them.
I launched in late October, so I knew that the Christmas period was approaching, and I set myself a goal. I was like, if I can have an invoice out by, at least before the Christmas break, then I've done well. And I just remember working every single process to the T. I was doing everything by the book, and I managed to get the invoice paid before Christmas, which was, it was pretty much everything I needed to be like, okay, we've got this. We can do this.
What did you do by the book that worked?
I just really followed process. So I had been in a non-billing role before I started Avani for probably about a year and a half. So it's every single question I would ask a consultant in my team when I was interrogating their process, I would sit down and ask myself. And it's so easy to just forget things and take shortcuts. So I was closing at every single stage.
What type of closing questions would you ask?
So after every single interview, how are you feeling? The power of yes was really, really important. So always getting them to say yes, making sure they're happy, not letting them essentially get off the phone until they tell me something they don't like about the job. So then I knew I had an objection that I could handle on the next call. And yeah, that was probably the best process I've ever worked.
Okay. So what was there any moment that you thought, what have I done here?
There was, probably the only thing I've struggled with is I've always been a really self-motivated person. Well, I thought I was very self-motivated and had a lot of intrinsic motivation. And then I quickly learned that I relied on my managers, my peers, the business around me to do well. And I was actually showing up for other people. And I was putting in 100% for other people. So that was the one thing for me where I had to learn how to put in 100% for myself and how to lift, essentially raise the targets for myself. Because making 30K a month when you're on your own seems great. So how do you push yourself to 50K a month?
Yeah.
And actually want to do it for yourself?
How did you come to that penny drop moment? Because that's really interesting that you say. Declan and I talk to recruiters every day, and one of the common comments that get thrown out is, "Oh, I don't know how I'd go working by myself. I need some people around me. I don't think starting my own thing is probably suitable because I get my energy from others, and I don't want to just be alone." Yeah. So you didn't realize that was the case for you until it happened, and then you, when did you realize, oh shit, I actually get my energy from other people. I need to step up.
Yeah, well, myself. I think it was probably when I had a few big months in the beginning, and then I thought to myself, oh, this is easy. So it was slowly finishing work a little bit earlier, not putting in the same level of effort, not hitting the KPIs I set for myself, and just really losing the discipline. And then there was one day I had a bit of a meltdown to Declan. I don't know if you remember. But I called Declan and just said, I've completely lost all structure. And it's really bad news. And yeah, it was nice to, have his support and obviously have the community within Recruiter as well. Because it just reminds you that you're not alone. Everyone's feeling this way. And that's probably one of the main reasons that I joined up with you guys in the first place, was because I knew that it was going to be lonely. I knew it was going to be hard. And at least I'd have a community around me where I could call and have a few mentors.
That's awesome. That's really insightful.
Means a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I think what you've said just there is more often than not happens for new business owners.
Yeah.
Because when you're a recruiter working for someone else's business, you got a PD, you get told what to do, you got the idea of what you need to focus on, and then you just go get that done. But when you just wake up and you're the master of your own destiny and you're how do I feel today? Do I feel like doing this?
Yep.
No, I don't. What am I gonna do in the meantime until I feel like doing this? And then all of a sudden you never feel like doing that, and you neglect the activity and the output that made you successful in the first place, and then you wig out.
I was confused about when to go to lunch, where to go to lunch when I first started, because I thrived in an office as well. Everyone was doing well, we were young, we were similar mentality, and then you get to your own little office and you're like, oh, is this it?
Yeah, what's my start and end time?
Yeah.
It gets to 5 o'clock and you're like, I guess I should stop working now. There's literally no rules. These little tiny things that you don't think about around, okay, when should I do BD? Okay, should I focus on this client? Should I keep doing BD? When do I go to lunch? When do I leave work? Is it enough?
It sounds really amateur, but it's actually something that happens a lot.
It's so true. I thought I was the most organised person. I used to have a full calendar. And as soon as I was on my own, I was like, so what will today be? What am I going to achieve today? And I've always been someone, my managers have always complained, saying, we just don't know what really makes you tick. Are you motivated by money? Because you're in recruitment, so you should be, to a certain degree, you should be motivated by money. And for me, I think it's always been about, building a really good team, having a good culture, and just enjoying showing up to work every day. So that's been a difficult adjustment for me, because obviously up until recently I haven't had anyone. So having Claudia and Paul on board now, huge shout out to them.
Exciting.
Keeping me sane. That's just been huge.
What's been the biggest difference? The morale, the accountability?
Yeah, morale, and I guess just having eyes on, knowing that you have to show up for 2 other people. and knowing that, you know, they need you to be at your desk at 8:30, because if you're not, then you're going to miss the team meeting in the morning. So yeah, just having a little bit more structure back in place, and yeah, the buzz of chasing a client with other people, I think is really what I was missing, because I was chasing a client and then I'd get the client on, or I'd have a win and give myself a pat on the back.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I find that having someone in your business helps keeping you accountable and keeping you busy as well. Because if you hire someone and you're dropping the ball and not leading by example, like how could you ever possibly expect someone else to be the best version of themselves?
Yeah, and I think it's true even for like a VA or like a candidate manager. You know, they don't necessarily need to be on the same level as you to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just need to show up for someone.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and you've got a fantastic team now. Looking back, would you have tried to hire sooner?
I think so.
Because we worked out pretty early on you could have.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there was definitely, like you mentioned a few times, where I was approached by people and I was thinking, is it the right time, to bring someone on? They're super keen on the brand. They want to work with me. They're really backing the story. But I always had my eyes set on Claudia.
Really?
We've always joked about it.
That was always
for
the
years.
plan.
Yeah. The only thing that was holding us back was her being in Melbourne. But we've obviously managed to overcome that. So, yeah, with our recent expansion.
Interstate expansion.
Which I'm cringing at.
National footprint.
On the record, that is cringe.
No, that's so good. So there's 3 of you now.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what's the biggest shift from going from just yourself to 3 of you? Is it fulfillment, accountability? Is that what I'm picking up?
Yeah, I think so. And just really, creating a platform for people where they can earn a really decent amount. They can create, the life that they want, especially for myself and Claudia, we're our own bosses now. We can make decisions freely. When we're rocking up to a client pitch, it's a completely different pitch as to what it was. And I think it's a lot more authentic. It's us.
What's different from your pitches now? Because we talk about this a lot in getting that buy-in to that small business owner journey and you as personals. What's changed from when you go in? What have you seen the biggest win as pitching as directors of your own businesses as opposed to going in and pitching for a large national agency or an international brand? And what's the reception like from clients?
I think it's been really positive for the most part, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, you'll still get ones that just hang up on you, tell you to fuck off. That's never going to change in recruitment. But when you get the chance to explain what you've done and what you're looking to achieve and why you're doing it, and a bit of the story behind yourself and the business, I think particularly in Perth, I think people really love the give it a go mentality and try and help each other out. And I think not just even in recruitment, we look across construction and there's loads of businesses that have been 2-3 years in operation. They're starting to scale up and they're starting to do really well, and they've built up off the back of that as well. So it just seems like as a bit of a community overall, a lot of businesses are keen to kind of give back to the smaller guys and not necessarily line the pockets of big multinationals in that sense, not just in recruitment, in any form of business.
And young people getting in business, I feel like your clients, my average client would be 50 to 60. It's they want to pass the torch on, they want to help.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you're prospecting now, clients are more open and receptive to listening to what you have to say than they were 12 months ago when you were pitching as a recruiter for a big brand? What's the dynamic shift of being open and receptive to being treated almost as a business equal instead of just, some recruiter's calling me?
Because you are the brand. The conversation, I feel, just flows a lot more easily in that sense, because you're talking about, at the end of the day, I am Ava James, so I'm talking about myself.
Your kids.
I'm talking about my kids, I'm talking about my family, I'm talking about, why I'm doing this and everything else. There's no kind of blanket kind of, business vision, I suppose, in that sense. It's very personable, it's very real in that sense. People engage, people tend to open up a bit more. I think it's the same with any business development. You start trying to build these relationships, you have to give a bit, then you get a bit, and then you start building it up and you start releasing a bit more, and then you get to know each other a bit more, and then it becomes a bit more, I suppose, less informal, and that's where you start to really kind of develop, you know,
I was
genuine
shocked.
relationships. You
Yeah,
know?
at how deep of a relationship you could have with a client. Like I've had clients with their kids in the car that know their names or their wives, and you're all chatting together. And
Mate,
yeah,
tell us about that time.
Here we go.
what time?
I think it was you. Tell us about that time where you went and had dinner at someone's house and you were like eating in the bedroom.
Oh, that was a candidate I placed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a candidate.
Sounds a bit weird.
It's an interesting story, actually.
He immigrated from, I think, Iran or Pakistan. This would have been back in like 2019, 2018. And he was hitting me up for weeks or months on LinkedIn trying to get a job. And I actually got him his first job in Australia, and he was so appreciative. And internal sales job for a valve company called AVK, and he was doing warehousing and internal sales. And then, yeah, he invited me over, and we had like a full cultural experience dinner, eating on the floor. And but in his culture, the men eat separately than the women and kids. So that was a little bit different. But
yeah, so he brought Dee over, and Dee's his partner, and Dee's
Sage.
And Sage. So he brought his kids and his partner, and they went and ate in one room, and then he went into the other room to eat with the guy that he placed. Pretty wild story. I don't think I've ever had. Maybe I haven't been open-minded enough to put myself into those types of situations. But that's a really interesting story that if you're a recruiter working at a recruitment agency, I don't know if any other recruiters are going out and eating in the bedroom of their candidates.
Oh, I highly doubt it. Yeah, the biggest present, I think the biggest present I've ever had was a $500 Maya gift card.
Wow.
what did you do?
Because she turned down the offer and she felt bad.
Whoa.
She gave you a $500 Maya
She
gift
sent me a
card.
$500 Maya gift card.
That
to
is
say,
awesome.
I'm so sorry, you've done such amazing work.
Yeah, well, she got a 30 grand counter offer, so she's
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
It was bigger than 30 grand, believe it or not.
Yeah, okay, yeah, right.
It's the least she could do.
I remember I had a candidate years ago. He was a contract for me. He was on my books for like 18 months, I think. And he was like a water treatment engineer, but doing all offshore platforms and all that kind of stuff. And he was from Iran as well. And used to catch up with him every time he was back, because he'd be away for long stints and everything else, and we'd catch up. And he went to Iran once and came back and brought me like a bag of nuts and all these kind of different things as well. Like, we just had a good relationship. And he's like, "Oh, what are you up to this weekend?" So at that point, I was still playing football. I was like, "Oh, I've got a game on Saturday, blah, blah." He's like, "Oh, where are you playing?" And I just kind of told him the name where we were playing. He's like, "Oh, okay, I'll come down." And I was like, yeah, cool, no worries. Never thinking in a million years he was going to come down, but we're a big game and we got beat pretty bad. Well, not badly, but like it wasn't a fun game to be part of. So I was not in the best of moods at the end of it. And you're trudging off the pitch, and then all of a sudden you look across and you go, Andy. And I was like, "Oh shit, he's here."
Oh, wow.
You just have to like compose yourself and like put on your kind of like business. "Oh, hi, how are you?" And so I'm like,
Just lost.
yeah, just lost, fuming, like not happy in the slightest, but just had to kind of go, right, game face.
Good
go
on
and
him for
nice,
coming
kind of
down
thing.
and watching you.
Aye, fair play, because it was nowhere near him. It was nowhere near him at all. So like he made
Wow.
a fair effort to come down, but just like caught me off guard as well, to be fair. But, yeah, never ate in his bedroom though.
Well, maybe that's stage 2 of the relationship, man.
He finished his contract after that and went to Qatar, so I didn't get there.
That's a
Invited
holiday
me-
on the cards.
Well, he
Yeah.
invited me out for the World Cup, funny enough. He's like, "You can come and live with me, and you got a car and all that." I was like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
so
sweet."
you might be having food in his bedroom soon.
Nah, Qatar World Cup's gone, you know.
Oh,
but
okay.
Maybe next time it's there.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, so if there are any recruiters out there that are interested to find out what it's like to have a VA support them in their role, whether that be to bill more, reduce tasks that they don't enjoy doing, or be a more effective recruiter in their niche, then we definitely recommend reaching out to the Outsource People or TOP. Reach out to them, inquire on how they can implement a VA in your agency and to support you. And if you mention ex-recruiter or Confessions of a Recruiter, they will give you a 13% discount off your bill per month on this VA that will allow you to scale your business, scale your desk, and to bill more and make more money. So go reach out to the outsourced people, say Confession sent you, get your discount, and see what is possible. So walk us through what you do at Ava James, because a lot of people that think about starting their own agency, they have like conflicting thoughts. They go, should I recruit in the industry that I know? Should I recruit in a new industry? I've got like a non-compete. I've got existing relationships. Do I lean into them? Do I start from scratch new? So walk us through, firstly, Ava James's niche, if you have a niche. Pretty sure you've got a niche. Because that will tie in quite well with how you first started, and you were originally going to just try and just get a job on and fill a role, but now you're being more specific. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's evolved. I mean, the clients that I've worked with, that when I've been at previous agencies, I've not actually worked with any of them since. Right? Really? So every business that I've worked with and all the placements I've made today have all been from completely new, fresh relationships.
Rather well done. You're crushing it.
It's like really surprising, but to be honest, it was maybe needed as well.
Sort of a fresh start.
Yeah, freshen it up, new relationships, new drive, new identity kind of thing in that sense from a business perspective. So it's been really good. But I mean, look, I've recruited across a number of different industries, a number of different disciplines over the years. So I'm quite adaptable in that regard. But it has definitely evolved. I'd say in recent times I've been getting a lot more roles and a lot more traction, and I suppose collaboration around senior management, operations, sales, that kind of side of things. Where
you're feeling a lot more senior roles, hey?
Yeah, I think where I've been getting the real engagement and the real partnership and transparency kind of aspect of it is around what you kind of traditionally call revenue generators, I suppose, in that sense. Because when it comes to using an agency, like for these kind of roles, like if you get the right person, they'll pay for themselves and your fee very quickly. You know, so you want to make sure that you are getting the right person first time round. And the approach I'm taking with it is like, all right, I've hired people in sales roles for years. I've made mistakes. I've had to develop process. I've got things right, got things wrong. I feel like I kind of have a better understanding of what kind of levers to put in place through a process. So being able to pass on my experience and try and have a more tangible discussion around process structure and different things, you know, to make candidates do or make the clients do to get them to open up and make it more sustainable or more likely to come off with the right person. It seems to be a lot better received in that regard as well, and you know, demonstrating the language of leaders and understanding businesses, and all these businesses are relatively young as well, you know, so they've made a lot of mistakes, and you know, they continue to develop and look for new or better ways of doing things. And at the end of the day, they're not recruitment. That's not what they do.
Yep.
So being able to lean on someone like myself that can have open and transparent conversations, is they see the value in that. So that's where we've been getting a lot of recent success, which is
because one thing I picked up on, you know, chatting with both of you, both being involved, I think reasonably heavily throughout the startup of both of your businesses, was the depth of knowledge and what the conversations are that you both have with clients is like. And it's a cut above the rest. Like, not many people are talking about the commercial outcomes of these businesses or the ROI or like the in-depth of the technology that these people will be working on or how all that works. So at what point did you think, like, did you learn, or did the penny drop, or that you evolved into, you know, becoming more of a businessman and woman as opposed to just like, hey, I've got someone who's got a great personality, I think they can fit your team?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest change was like when I was looking at the P&L for the team that I was managing, and when I was understanding, I guess, how much, you know, attrition rates can affect the bottom line and how important it is to have the right people in your team for business outcomes, was when, my line of questioning just completely changed. Instead of it being, you know, how many years of experience are you looking for? What sort of, you know, what sort of backgrounds, what sort of, you know, degrees do you want them to have? It was more along the lines of, what are, you know, the advantages to your business if you get this person? What are the disadvantages if you don't get this person? And I think that really changed a lot of my conversations.
And once you ask them once, it's like, you're like, oh, I wish I just asked this years ago.
Yeah.
But no one teaches it.
No, and I think, it's doing a bit more of a deep dive. I think more often than not, if you're less experienced or if you're working for someone, you have a bit of somewhat of a template in your head of what to get, information-wise, whereas when you don't have that template, you end up becoming a lot more open with your questions, or I'd say actually a bit more targeted with your questions. For me, it's like, right, what's your strategy? Well, what do you mean? Well, where have you been? Where are you now? And where do you want to be in the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 3 years, 5 years? Like, what's the ultimate goal? And if you understand that, it not just feeds into obviously what they need in the now, but what they're going to need in future, what they're going to need culturally. If you understand the issues that they've had in the past, obviously in terms of candidates and solutions, then you can help avoid replicating, I suppose, past issues in that sense as well. Like even with one client, when we first started speaking, he was like, I needed a business development manager. I was like, right, tell me your strategy, tell me your story, tell me where you want to be. And he told me everything, right? Completely open and honest. And I went, you don't need a BDM. You need an ops manager. It's like, it's got business development capability in there, but can alleviate some of that workload from yourself. You need to start getting the structure in place to be able to elevate your business and free up your time to be able to do more on that side of things.
So he was better at BD than what the other potential guy could be. So that's what...
He just wasn't free enough to do BD. So he thought, if I can get rid of the BD, then it'll free me up to do the other stuff. But really, he needed someone to be helping with BD, but also alleviating some of the stress of the day-to-day. It was getting too bogged down in the day-to-day. So if he had that structure in place, a kind of 2 IC within the business to help him with that, he's getting another level out of himself, he's getting another level out of the business, he's getting a different perspective on certain things in the business, things he might have potentially missed out on, in the past, because you only know what you know.
Yeah, it's surprisingly common how often like a job brief or a job description will change after you've had that first conversation.
That's probably when you've done a good job.
Yeah, because a lot of these businesses don't have HR teams. They don't have anyone internal that they can speak to about what they need and why they need it. Mm-hmm. So as soon as they start sort of opening up and actually talking about what they're looking for, they can often speak themselves into something else, and then suddenly we're looking for something completely different.
Yeah, I find that half the time when you ask the right questions, most of them don't know what they're looking for. And when I moved from, when you first start recruitment, like you're looking for a checklist of attributes that you can source when you're trying to identify a candidate. So, when you first learn, it's like, how many years experience? Have they worked at a competitor? Have they sold this product? Have they dealt with this product? Like, what are the on-paper requirements? And that's kind of like where you start as a recruiter. Then when you kind of move beyond that to like level 2, level 3 and beyond, it's like, it's actually not about that. It's like, what are the outcomes? What are the outcomes that you're actually looking to achieve by hiring someone? Putting aside the title, the attributes, etc. And so I found...
what are the outcomes?
Well, it's either make more money, reduce stress in other departments, hit budgets, reduce costs, whatever that might be. And so sometimes, like when you're talking to a client and you're getting a brief and they're giving you all these attributes, and but like what's like, how's the role measured on success? Like, what are the outcomes that you're looking to achieve by hiring this person? Half the time they're like, I haven't really thought about that.
Yeah.
And you're like, I think we should think about that. And then all of a sudden, just as you pointed out, Andy, it's like, it's a whole new role that they're like, I don't actually need this person. This is the type of person I need. And then you become like a trusted advisor and the whole process gets really, really easy.
Yeah, I think as well, when you're in like the land of agency, you're often kind of selling companies the same. Like you're pitching them as offering really competitive salary packages. They've got really good work-life balance, the culture's great, the career progression's there. When you have a little bit more experience under your belt, you start saying, what's your value proposition? Why does X, candidate want to work for your business as opposed to the other 15 businesses that are doing the same thing as you? And then opening up like the conversation around value prop has been huge for me, because I can actually like create a campaign that is for that client and not just a generic, you should join for an extra 20K.
Yeah.
or, because you might be able to step up in the future.
You know what I've found has always been a slam dunk for me in engagement when taking a brief over the phone, whether it's a cold call and I'm getting the brief within 3 minutes of a pitch, is asking who in their team that you would like to carbon copy
Yep.
and get in this role. Tell who is that person? And I'll be like, oh, Barry. Like, great. Do you mind if I have a chat to Barry? I just want to get to know him a little bit more so I know exactly who you're looking for. And half the time when you say that, they go, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll give you Barry's number. And you just find me a Barry. That's perfect. And then all of a sudden your engagement goes from taking a brief to them giving you the details of other people in the team for you to get to know each other, making an intro to other people in the team. And it's almost a slam dunk when you go, tell me who in your team right now is perfect for this job. I want to get to know them and I want to send you someone that is exactly like that person. 99 times out of 100, it's like your job is super, super engaged and you just start recruiting it straight away.
I found another good one as well is understanding what makes that hiring manager or leader in the business so special, and then being able to sell a general manager or a head of department or a CEO, because that's who they deal with. Like at the end of the day, the company's just a logo on the door. If they don't have buy-in to that senior leadership team, then they're not going to enjoy working there. And then that's another, like, open up another Pandora's box. And you're like, what makes you, or like asking colleagues of that person how we can sell this leader in the business.
Yeah.
They're like,
It's a huge win when your hiring manager can sell the business better than you can in the first interview, because you know it's a deal done.
Yeah, that's actually, I thread that in to give them a bit of it, because you want to give the hiring manager, the person you're getting the brief off, a little bit of a pump up as well. And so, like, everyone likes doing business with people they like. And so the more interest you show in the hiring manager and you give them a little bit of a pump up, they're like, yeah, I really want to use this guy. So half the time, when I'm taking this brief, it's like who in the team would be perfect for this role? What do they look like? I want to quickly LinkedIn them, get familiar with where they used to work, etc. I'd love to talk to them, not only to get to know them, but what would be a really good angle here is there's obviously reasons why they like working for you that you probably don't even realize. I'd love to talk to them about what makes you an amazing manager, because that's going to be a big draw card for someone like this person. So I'd love to talk to him about what makes you special as well to work for. And I swear to God, they go, I fucking love this recruiter. Let's fucking get him in. Because like, if you can really make it less about the role and more about them, then all of us, like, more about them, the outcomes that they're going to achieve, how much is going to save,
make their job better. That's why they're hiring.
100%.
They're not hiring for more headaches.
Yeah, you turn it around and make it all about them, not about the role, and they're like, this person gets me. I need this person. I need this recruiter.
Blake is my soulmate.
Yeah.
It comes back like before you said, to the detail. The detail is not just solely around like the day-to-day, right? You can get a JD for that, right? And like the job's the job. There might be little different nuances and stuff like that within each business, so what you're doing, etc. But at the end of the day, understanding the personalities, understanding the people, understanding the team, the culture within that team and everything else, and whether you're going to click with them. Like, because everyone's different personalities. There's no kind of cookie cutter in each industry, so it's having that transparency with the candidate around what the hiring manager's like or what the direct report's going to be like, but also the other way around. When you send the candidate across and it's going, they've been here for 10 years and they've done 5 years there. I'm like, yeah, that's great. I can read that on the CV. It's like, nah, this is their personality. This is their driver. This is what they do in their personal time. This is why they get up in the morning and go. Like, this is why they're going to add value from a personality perspective. It's I find it's often missed.
Yeah.
Like, you're just kind of regurgitating what's in the CV. I don't need that.
How often do you prep clients before an interview?
If my process is streamlined, every single time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
if I can't get them on the phone, then I'll definitely send an email prepping them around what the candidate wants and kind of reiterating what they need to pitch to this particular candidate. Because it's different every time.
How often would you do that? Out of like 5 candidates that go for an interview in 5 different hiring managers, would you do it like upon gut feel? How can I tighten this up a little bit? I'm going to prep the client. How often out of those 5 would you prep the client?
Oh, depending on the relationship I had with the client and if I had faith in them during the interview.
Yep.
But probably Yeah, 4 times out of 5.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andy?
I think it's a case-by-case basis. It depends how experienced they are with hiring and also how transparent they've been through the front end of the process. Like, I had one client where we had hashed out a full recruitment process in terms of each stage, timescales, everything else before I'd even started sourcing. So, like, from that perspective, I'm like, right, this guy's on it. He knows what he's doing. He shared the strategy. He shared what he's going to speak about. He was all very open about that. So felt like there was minimal prep. You know, I'd be saying something for the sake of saying it. So naturally, until that first candidate comes out of the back end of that process and you can get that feedback from them, you don't know for definite, but like that one you're prepped. But there's other ones where, you know, they have maybe, you know, given it a go. They've been on the tools or something like that and just gave it a crack and started their own business and they're starting to do well, they're starting to grow, and they maybe haven't developed that skill set as much, you know, and sometimes you want to kind of give them, you give them some pointers, some suggestions around structure, not just obviously around conversation, but the actual recruitment framework in that sense. But sometimes you also just kind of want to let them to be themselves as well. Do you know what I mean? Be genuine, because ultimately that's what I'm telling the candidates about. I'm telling them about it, I'm not selling it to them.
Yep.
You know, all you're doing is communicating the information they've given you. They either like it and it ticks the box for them, or it doesn't. You know, you shouldn't really be selling anything at the end of the day.
You know, that's really interesting because I get conflicting thoughts on this. I lost a really big client of mine once from prepping candidates too much and telling the candidates exactly what the client's looking for, and then the candidate's gone in and said exactly that. Clients turned around and rejected them. Candidate has thought, oh, I've said exactly what Blake told me to say. I wasn't my authentic self. That's why I didn't get this job. And then threw me under the bus and said, Blake told me to go in and say X, Y, Z. And is that why you didn't give me the job? And they've gone, what, Blake told you to say X, Y, and Z? What are you doing, Blake, telling candidates to say this kind of stuff?
Yeah, you need to be
How'd you
really
manage that?
careful.
What was your comeback? Or did you just lose it and that's...
I didn't realise I lost it until, for some reason, they just weren't giving me... I'll tell you who it is. Yeah, so at Coloplast, I don't know if anyone's heard of a company called Coloplast, but they do like wound care, continence, ostomy products for hospitals. So I was recruiting like BDMs that sell like wound care products into public-private hospitals. And, you know, big packages, you know, 150 salaries plus car, blah, blah, blah. So like they were pretty good high-level salespeople. But then all of a sudden they got a few roles on, and I'm calling the regional managers, then I'm calling the sales directors, and then it wasn't until like I think I followed up 3 or 4 times. He was like, "Mate, we're not going to be using you. You tell the candidates everything that we're looking for in a candidate, and you
prefabricated.
Yeah, you're like cheating the system almost." And I was like a little bit taken back because it's really hard to find that fine line between, hey, this is what they're looking for from a genuine, like, hey, they're looking for someone who's going to be dedicated, you know, that wants to show up every day, that's not going to just like look at the clock and then, you know, clock off at 5 o'clock and go home. Like they're going to finish when the job's done. Like this is the person that they're looking for. And then he's gone in and said that, and then they've interpreted it like I'm giving him like cheat codes to how to get the job.
The principle of it more so than anything else. But I had this happen to me recently as well, but on the flip side with a client. So I had someone going through for an interview. First interview was with my client, who's the line manager. And I listened in on it on Teams, because if it's ever a Teams interview, I'll always try and listen. It went well. And then he goes, right, went really, really well. I love this guy. The next step, just like the final interview, is getting the CEO on. As soon as the CEO joined the Teams meeting, my candidate was, for lack of a better word, harassed by the CEO. The tone of the meeting completely changed. You know, he was getting interrogated by the CEO, who obviously has a completely different, you know, personality.
Could have had a bad day.
Yeah, he's obviously quite like a D personality, very, very direct. So I sent an email afterwards and I thought, this is risky. I don't know how this is going to land. But I gave them some further preparation and I gave them pointers on what they should do in the final interview. And I encouraged them to have a third interview with this candidate because I thought there's no way he's accepting the job after how that went. So I sent an email, had a conversation with the line manager and said, look, I've got some feedback on how you guys need to pitch yourselves and sell the business. He has multiple options, so he needs to pick you, essentially. And then I sent the email and I was thinking, oh no, what have I done? And turns out I got the Saucer review back about 2 months later. And it was, Jade's the first person who's ever given us feedback on a process. We really appreciate it. She really helped us secure the candidate. So that was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I thought, great, they're going to be a repeat client.
Yeah. People love
Pushback.
Yeah, pushback and being a business equal and going, look, you're not really doing this right.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure like all of us in this room right now, if we were doing something that we thought to be normal and one of us pulled each other up and I said, oh, Jade, you're really not showing up very well here. You'd be like, oh, gee, thanks for keeping me in check, Blake. Let's just put the game face on or something, Like we all appreciate a little bit of a, keeping each other accountable and keeping ourselves in check. So I think clients don't get that too often because there's usually a master-slave relationship in recruitment for most recruiters. And then as soon as you flip that to a business equal and you go, I'm not really sure how this is going to go for these 3 reasons. If you want this person, these are the things that you need to talk about that's of interest to them and really get them over the line. Because it almost gives them a fear of loss as well. Like if you prep a client good enough, usually they are like, 1, super appreciative that you're like going out of your way and you're super invested. But 2, when you go, look, if you're going to have any chance of getting this guy, these are the 3 things that are really, really important to him. So ask him about these things, dig deep in those things and make sure you have alignment there. And then when they get off that call, they're like, oh, does Blake think that we've got a chance that we might not be able to get this guy? And then all of a sudden they get into like sales mode and go, no, we're going to get this guy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're selling and they're going, let's just smash these 3 points that Blake brought up. Candidate's really happy because those 3 points are brought up and then everyone loves each other and it's all good. I don't know if that's like being too involved.
No, I think it's just value add. Like if I was
That's
going
the
to be
point
paying,
of a recruiter. If you're paying 10, 20, 30 grand.
Yeah, I was going to say
Sorry,
25,
Jade.
30,
Yeah,
35,
30,
40,
yeah.
who knows?
50, 60, 70 grand.
Yeah, just standard Avani fees. But yeah, I usually place 5 to 10K flats.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, he's one of those. He's one of those recruiters that they go, I'm speaking to an agency that they're doing 5K and you go, who the fuck's doing that?
Nah, gee.
Yeah,
I think
like,
that's the value add.
4.5.
Yeah.
And like, flying, I used to fly interstate for a few clients that were doing retain, sitting in on the interview process. Like the more you can be involved, the more cut through and client retention. It's a game changer. The more you're able to level up as a recruiter because you don't realise how much information actually gets spoken about in the interview. Like, I've sat with a client and I ended up running the interview because they were like, didn't know what to say.
Yeah,
or
what should we ask? Exactly.
Yeah, what should
And
we
I
ask?
think,
What did you think?
yeah, the hard part is actually getting the candidate to interview. So you've already got the job on, you found the candidate, you've had the interview request. You should be doing everything in your power to get that over the line for everyone's sake. I'm sure the client doesn't want to have 15 interviews.
No, you don't actually realise how painful interviewing is until like you actually sit in on clients.
When you're the one doing it.
When you're the one doing it, like, and realising it. And like, also as well, like, since ex-recruiter, like I never used a recruiter at Blended. A rec to rec would never send me any candidates. But at ex-recruiter, we've used a couple, and early on we used one, and it was they would come in like, do you know anything about us? Oh no, I just got a call off the SEEK database yesterday about the job. And you're like, I can't believe I've prepped for this. I'm now sitting in front of a candidate that's got no idea they got called. This is such a waste of my time. And you can seriously see how clients get the shits. And then you can see how much they value when people like you two go in and actually have these commercial conversations, outcomes, and show that care element, how much of a value add and how much cut through you can have in the industry.
Just thinking about what else you can do, so you don't end up in one of these master-slave scenarios, because like as a kind of example, one of my clients have made a connection with senior management. We were talking about 4 or 5 roles you need to have filled for January starts, and we're catching up tomorrow actually, but like the whole thing was, are you going to be running the interview process? It's like, no, it's going to be one of my managers that's going to be running it. I was like, right, okay. Has he ran a recruitment process before? Has he done interviews before? Nah. Recent promotion, only been in management for 3 months. And I was like, right, are you sitting on the interviews? Nah. So is he just going at it himself? He will sink or swim kind of thing? He's like, I'll be all right. I was like, if it's all right with you, do you want me to sit in with him? I said, I'll come down early. So we'll do some interview prep, put some structure in place, get some questions, and provide it with a bit of structure and a bit of free time to get to know each other kind of thing as well. And then I'll sit in with him and kind of bring him back on course and kind of guide him through that process.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, how much are you going to charge me for that? I was like, nothing. It's at the end of the day, I said, I want to get them across the line. And I said, so making sure we've got a proper process in place. And I said, like, why would I charge you extra for that? You know, like, it's
Well, there you go, mate. Could have been
it's a value.
You could have. You could have done a big fat fee, I reckon. Because, like, even you saying that just then, I was like, I fucking want that.
Yeah,
you would.
Because you both will experience this as your journey continues to unfold. But it's really, really hard recruiting for yourself. It's incredibly difficult. And when you start recruiting for yourself, all of your process on how to be a recruiter completely goes out the window. It's all of a sudden on gut feel. You're not asking the right questions. You're selling yourself too much. You're not following up. All of a sudden you're just doing things so differently, and you fumble your own process so easy. So the fact that someone would come in and go, look, I'm going to help you with this. What are your questions here? Let's get some structure here. It's a massive, massive value add that probably isn't leaned in on enough, I think, in recruitment.
It's a consultative part, though. The consultative part seems to have taken a back seat for a lot of people.
Yeah, I reckon that's because it's 2021. Like, coming out of COVID, like, it was so easy. You didn't have to do that. You could trip over a deal, call 5 clients, get 6 jobs on. Like, it was pretty easy. So
yeah, there's an element of that. There's an element of the traditional COVID recruiter as well that can do recruitment without going face to face, with just taking a job brief and stick up an ad, and they'll get someone from the ad, they screen them, they send them across, interview, placement. Like, you can do that. If you do high volume of that, you'll still make decent enough money, right? But you'll never have the depth in your relationships that it's going to be much more than that.
That's the one thing that I wish I was more, I took more seriously. I literally never met a candidate or a client when I started Bandito. It was purely high volume, high activity, calling clients, screening, building a quick relationship over
that's
the
how
phone.
we were taught. We didn't know any different.
Yeah. It was like super fast paced, high intensity, just get it done. And every month was like trying to find new pipeline every single month. So, like, I think that's what gave us the mindset that we've got at the moment, where we're always in grind mode. Like, we're never kind of resting on existing relationships, so to speak. It's always new. But if I could go back 7 years when I started Bandito, the amount of compounding outcomes that I could have got if I just actually focused on like some account management.
Yeah.
And just
you
looked
missed
after
out
existing.
a lot of bedroom meals, mate. I could just think.
It was the same at my previous agency. Like, we once pulled up a report of how many terms of business we had signed, and it was thousands.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, when have we last spoken to that client that we placed with 3 years ago? Oh, we just did one deal and then we never spoke to them again. Madness.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if that was just our environment. I don't know if that's just you're always just chasing the next client, so you forget about your existing. But honestly, it only takes, and like, we've got some partners that are in this category, it only takes 2 or 3 clients that are whales to change your life. Like, you have 2 or 3 clients that, let's say they've got a 1,000-person business, and the average person changes job every 3 years, let's say, 3.5 years. That means that for that 1,000-person business, there's going to be essentially 100 people a year going in and out of that company just to maintain headcount. So even if they're not growing, they've got 100 hires a year to do. You have 3 of those clients that have got 300 hires a year and you just get a fraction of that, like you don't have to actually do BD at all. You can just sit on those relationships and keep going wider, deeper in that one company, and like you're good to go.
It's find that balance though, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, if you have all your eggs in one basket with 3 clients, and I think certainly in W we've seen some pretty big whales go under.
Get beached.
You're such a dad.
Mate. Beached and stuff with dynamite, like they're gone, like they're not coming back kind of thing, you know. So like if you end up in that situation where, you know, whether it be 1/3 or 2/3 of your revenue has gone overnight, like shit.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
So it's
Yeah,
finding
there's
the balance.
Never
fine
having
line.
30%.
Yeah, but it's having a balance of, you know, having that continuity, that account management, that consistent one where you are as ingrained into that business as possible from a recruitment perspective, but then also still having that, setting aside that time to go out and hunt new fresh stuff, and, you know, who can be number 4, who can be number 5, you know, and then you kind of figure out what kind of gets to a sustainable amount, and then, you know, right, how more can what more can I do to manage this, whether it be add headcount or, you know, whatever you need to do to make it work kind of thing. But
yeah, but I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that. Like I've made, you know, placements with lots of different businesses, and I probably haven't spoken to them in the last 30 days, which is not good enough. I should be calling them every couple of weeks to check in and, you know, see how their teams are going, see if they need anyone else, because that is the path of least resistance. But for some reason, us recruiters are always just hunting the next deal, the next client, and making it hard for ourselves.
Do you not feel that's maybe structural as well in some of these, but like in a lot of businesses, it's kind of like, right, here's your outcome, here's your target, your budget. Like realistically, how many businesses, how many management teams break down where your placements have come from or actually give a shit if you are smashing that out of the park?
Okay, here's a thought. Do you think it would be useful to have maybe an end of quarter reflection on all the deals that you've done the previous quarter? So we're talking maybe 3 to 6 months prior to go, okay, who are all the hiring managers you've dealt with and placed with? And then build a list out of, okay, who's like a colleague of theirs that is to the left or to the right inside that business, or a business that's a direct competitor that you can just start to like make an intro with. And then maybe a part of your, you know, the start of every quarter, you go through all of your old placements, you call the candidate, you call the hiring managers, and then you get a referral from the hiring managers, and you like, that's just an element of, you know, account management to try and keep like wringing out the same sponge, so to speak. Does anyone have something like that or something similar?
Yeah, I'm catching up with tomorrow. Made two deals with this particular business with one hiring manager, and they're moving on to another one. So it's making sure obviously we've got multiple points of contact within those accounts, because at the end of the day, like Dave could leave and go to a competitor.
What do you say?
That's your only point of contact, then you're not fucked. But like, you've got an uphill battle on your hands to try and go, oh, see that guy just left. I used to do a lot of work with him. Can I work with you as well, please? Or who's starting there? Like it's kind of like a fresh start to a certain degree from like a relationship perspective. Whereas if you've got, or depending on the size of the business as to how many layers there are or how many different business units and everything else, but if you've got multiple points of contact there and you've developed relationships with them all, Big Dave leaves, asked, because you'll have all them there, but they'll also introduce you to whoever takes his seat, or you find out if you can help put someone else in that seat. And if you've got the levels, obviously, of contacts within that as well, then you're fine. There's no panic stations.
What do you say, though? Because I'm just thinking about when I was 2-3 years into recruitment. Let's say I used to recruit in like medical sales, and say let's say I'm dealing with a national sales director of a $1 billion medical supply company, and I want to create more relationships in the business over and above just my one contact. How do you frame that to, let's say, the contact that you've got to say, give me the numbers of your colleagues? Like, is it something where you just call, let's say you're speaking to Barry. I'll use a really easy example. Let's say you're speaking to Barry. He manages Queensland. Stephen manages New South Wales. Would you just call Stephen off your bat and go, hey, I do a lot of work with Barry in Queensland, just thought I'd reach out, blah, blah, blah. Is that, or would you go, hey, just want you to make an introduction for me to the guy in New South Wales? Like, what's the way that you get more contacts in the one business?
Depends on the strength of your relationship. If you've done a couple of deals kind of thing and things are going well, like, yeah, might be the prime opportunity to kind of ask for those introductions. You might just want to call them and say, look, you can kind of name check me with X person in your business. I've kind of built out the sales team or in WA, but, you know, I'm also looking to do more interstate, you know, for example. Like, there's multiple different ways you can do it, but it's just, I think it's so case by case, depending where that relationship's at.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it would rely heavily around the candidate story and being like, you know, if you've just, imagine you build a sales team in Queensland, you have, after 6 months, they've increased revenue by 500-600K, and then you go to New South Wales and you go, oh, hey, mate, like, we've done such a good job here. What other states need help? Because usually not every state is performing well.
Yep.
And be like, oh, look, this guy would appreciate your call, or you call Brad and be like, hey, I just did this for Chris. Bit of a call out of the blue, mate, but XYZ just happened. Could this benefit your team?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's another really good reason why it's important to have a niche, or, you know, to have your business focusing on one industry so that you can really wrap a client and you can support them from multiple different angles instead of just one small division.
Yep.
So like with us, we focus on renewable energy, and there's only 3 of us now, but we are covering most teams within every single client. So if anyone signs terms of business, then it's going to benefit the whole company.
100%. Guys, this has been an awesome podcast.
Yeah.
The best.
The best.
Maybe.
This is the #1 Perth podcast in recruitment nationally.
That's ever been recorded.
This is probably the only
I
recruitment.
was going to say, I was thinking whose cage might have rattled with that comment, but I don't think there is anyone else.
No, it's blue skies ahead for us.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well,
Congratulations to you both. It's been a massive year, so good job.
Guys.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another Confessions of a Recruiter podcast with Blake and Declan. We hope you enjoyed and got a lot of value and insights out of this episode. If you do have any questions or you would like to recommend someone to come on the Confessions podcast, we would love any introductions. And remember the rule of the podcast: like, share, and recommend it to a friend. Until next time.